Pedophilia is the real pandemic and not the virus. 22,000 children go missing every single day. Welcome to another episode of M _. I am your co-host, Miss Eviwa Jacobs, and I'd like to introduce you to my co-host. Hi, Mbali, how are you doing?
Hi, darling. I'm good. How are you?
How are you? I'm good. Hey, Zilu, welcome back. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. And you?
I'm good. Hi, Wendy.
Hi, love. How are you?
I'm good. And how are you?
I'm blessed and highly favored, so I am amazing.
Anne?
Okay, go.
Sissy, why are you crying?
I hate it. Don't do
Is
it.
it? Mama!
It's Annelile or Anne, not Anne. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
Anne. Oh yes,
Anne.
Anne. It's Anne.
It's
Annelile. Hey, darling, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So today, guys, we'll be discussing pedophilia and high school girls dating older men. Yeah? Pedophilia is a psychiatric disorder in which an adult or older adolescent experiences a primary or exclusive attraction to preschool children. So,
But you're
ladies,
doing
do you
great.
mind sharing your views on this topic, on pedophilia? What do you know about pedophilia, and what are your thoughts on that?
So I recently had a conversation about this topic, but it was so indirect, where there's a bunch of men and women sitting together, and the topic started of how old were you when you had your first sexual encounter, and a lot of the men said, and this is a statement that was made. They said every single man, their first sexual encounter always with an older woman. And I was thrown by the statements. I'm like, what do you mean? And they said every single man, especially in South Africa, first sexual experiences with someone much older than them. And for them, it's a normal thing. So I'm like, no, but that's pedophilia, because an older woman cannot be having sexual intercourse with a young child. And these men were like, no, but how else are you going to get the experience unless you're with someone older than you? And this really, really freaked me out, because I'm like, this cannot be a school of thought that's accepted, because pedophilia is, yes, it's a psychological issue, but it's also something that needs to be phrased and looked at as a criminal act, because it's wrong. You are preying on someone who doesn't have the right to consent to something being done to them. So those are my views about it. I feel very strongly about it.
I mean, I'd agree with Wendy. I agree with Wendy because children, and this is how it usually happens, that they don't realize that the molestation is about to happen. It's usually a close relative, family friend, or someone that they've seen maybe their parents relate positively with, so they feel like they're in a safe space. And then when the person touches them inappropriately, they don't know that it's inappropriate because they trust that person. And it's something Oprah was saying, and like we were having a discussion about this, Wuti, when Oprah says when the molestation happens, the molester has usually touched you before, right? So they've touched you before, they've hugged you, they've kissed you in front of your parents and whoever you trust, right? So the transfer of trust has already happened, so that when it's just the two of you in private, wherever it is, and it's usually in a private, shady space, that the person and the child will know that it's wrong, but because of the trust elements, they sort of just allow it to happen, because they are before consent giving age. That's why there's a consent giving age, because before a particular mindset or mind frame, you actually don't know what's good or bad for you.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, and it's for both girls and boys. Children should not be subjected to this at all. It's disgusting.
And I think I like what you said around if it's someone who has touched you before, normally in front of your parents, because I've been learning a lot on sexual grooming, because I've been having these conversations, I'm not sure why, but the interesting thing about sexual grooming is when a person asks a child, a judge, a policeman, a lawyer, did he hurt you? The child says, no, we were playing a game. Did he touch you inappropriately? For a child, even the word inappropriate is like, no, but it's Uncle Spanban, it's Auntie Spanbani. She always kisses me, she always touches me. My mom has seen it kiss me before. So this person will come and groom you to a point where you believe, and as a child, in your mind, this is normal. This is how we play, this is how we interact. So if a judge says, did he hurt you, did she hurt you? The answer is no, because no, man, this is how we interact and it's normal. And that's how a person can groom a child into believing this isn't abuse, this isn't pedophilia, this isn't something wrong, because this is how we engage, and my parents know this person, this is how we engage, so it can't be wrong.
On Twitter this past week, actually, maybe because the topic we were going to be discussing it. So it's been making waves on my TL, especially men like trying to slide it in casually about dating girls that are 18, 19 and stuff like that. And, you know, I feel it's just a very disgusting topic to even have, because I feel, I don't know, I hate discussing things we all know are wrong. You know what I mean? And it's kind of one of those things where people want to act like they want to be conscientized, but they know this is wrong. They know how toxic and unhealthy this is and what it does to the victims and stuff like that. So my take on it is that it's not like, I saw they tried to, in America a few years ago, if I'm not mistaken, they tried to add themselves with the LGBTQI community and stuff like that. And it's not a norm, and we should never normalize it. I know in so many cases when we were in high school, a lot of the girls we went to school with tried to normalize it, and it was everyone tried to normalize in society, but it's very disgusting and it's very wrong. And it's, sexual grooming eventually really ruins the victims. That's my take on it.
Okay, back to what Uzili was saying. I also have here noted down the word on the street says that homosexuality and pedophiles deserve the same rights, claiming that the letter P should be added to the LGBTQ community. What do you guys think, Ngalondo? Do you think it's appropriate? Because even on Twitter, a lot of people now, they think that pedophiles and gay people, they deserve more or less the same rights. And they're like more or less in the same category.
How is the question? How are they in the same category?
Because
I actually found research on that.
When we're dealing about pedophilia or pedophile, whatever, it doesn't even have to do with your sexuality.
I think also in a way, they've normalized it. Like it's okay if dates like there's nothing wrong with that. So in a way they think that we should just accept them as they have this disorder and it's okay.
Well, I personally think if you're hesitant on a drinking age and you are so adamant that a person must be 18 years old or 21 to drink, I think you should be as adamant if the person is able to date a person that is above those ages or have sexual intercourse with a person of those age, above those ages. So, I mean, you can't say in the same breath that you feel like people under the ages of 21 and 18 cannot drink alcohol, but in the same spirit, try to chant that these people must be in sexual relationships with people that are over those ages. I mean, to me, it's also one of those things where you're just trying to prey on the weak and you're preying on people that aren't conscious yet. And I mean, it's taken us years to even try to understand stuff like coercion, let alone know that guys our age are always trying to trick us into having sex or trying to convince us into having sex. We didn't know that was considered rape at some point. And you want to tell me right now that 18-year-olds and people under the ages of 18 could ever be considered sexual partners or with a 40-year-old? That to me is kind of sick, and I just think that is very problematic. They don't deserve to be put on the same level as anyone else in the LGBTQI community, because you're trying to take away something great from the movement and you're trying to put it to shame and reduce it to something that it isn't. That's my opinion.
I agree with you, Zilu, and I think we need to understand that I think what they're trying to do is say that they are ill mentally. I don't know. I don't get it. If it's a disorder, then get treatment. I don't think a mentally ill person then should be allowed to be sleeping with children in any case, right? I feel like any side that we look at this argument, any side in which they are trying to, never mind, equalize themselves to the gay community or the LGBTQ community, in any place, right? I feel like if you're pedophilic, it's I don't know, maybe it should be considered as a mental illness and should get a treatment. I feel like it should be somewhere in a case, so there's something wrong. I don't think it's a natural, I don't know. I can't see it as something that we can at any level, whether legally, morally, or anything else, allow pedophiles access to children. And I don't even see the thing of 18, you know, any on the other side of 18, you're a child. You know, you're a child. Like, stop it. Just don't do it. Like, don't do it, right? You can't get married before you're 18. So really, I like, in the same breath, I don't get which angle that pedophiles want to validate their fetish, you know. And also, people have fetishes, and they can be experimental. I don't know, like, find other ways to fulfill your fetish outside of actually hurting another human. Because let's say you have a fetish about peeing on a person, that person still has to have given you consent for you to pee on them, right? It's the same. It's like people who sleep with dead people. I don't see how we can ever give those people a right to sleep with corpses, because that corpse can't consent. So this thing of fetishes and it being legalized, I'm not for it.
I was actually reading an article. Sorry, you can go.
No, I was gonna talk about lento ivebeyithethile where bafuna ufaka kule LGBTQ plus thing. I feel like mhlawumbi bebezama uyifaka as a kuba you raise the point of umntana dating utatakhe and all of that. I think they were trying to raise a point of incest. What do you call that? Yeah,
sodomy, incest, all of that.
As Annalise said, also fetish, but them being it really doesn't make sense. Like, no.
I'm like short circuiting, like
you can't even
can't compute.
I demand sana.
Okay, so back to this being a disorder, ne? I don't think a lot of people bayayivuma loo nto about it is actually a disorder. They're struggling with this form of disorder. Yeah, but so what do you guys think will be? Do you think as a country we're dealing with this kakuhle, and what measures can be taken to handle all of this, to handle pedophiles?
Well, as a country, I like the fact that automatically a person under 18, you had sex with them, you're automatically guilty. I do like that in our legal system. They don't even ask if the child consents, because before 16 you just, so at least for me that is like good on our system.
I agree with you in part. I think for me the only place where I see a gap, or there's a place where we could improve, it's when it comes to actual children, because sometimes the language we use when the legal system's addressing children around abuse is language that children haven't been exposed to before, so automatically they answer no. And when a child has been sexually groomed by a person of authority, then automatically, and I've seen this in case because of the kind of work I do, where the judge or the lawyer or the social worker will ask the child, were you raped? The child says, no, I wasn't. They'll say, did you have intercourse? The child says, no, we didn't. They'll say, did he put his penis? Did she put whatever? The child would say no. But when the child has been sexually groomed, the groomer knows the language to use. The groomer will say, let's go play this. The groomer will say, there's language, and a child will even say, we go and we ride horses. Ganti riding horses is a euphemism
Our little
for
secret.
we were having sex. You know, so I think it's also a way that we could improve when it comes to interviewing children. Yes, the system works well when it comes to older people because older people understand. But when it comes to a child, and and I've seen even with teenagers who have been abused from children, their minds haven't even fully developed enough for them to say this is abuse, this is wrong. So you'll find a 14-year-old boy who's been groomed sexually by a woman all his life, and they ask him, were you abused? Because he's 14, we'll be like, he understands. He'll say no. Ganti, when you sit with him and you have conversations for weeks on end, then you realize, there's something funny happening here, you know. And I know that with children in America, they'll make them draw pictures, they'll make them do puzzles and whatever, you know. And I think that always works very well. So I think if we had to take time in this country and actually sit with a child instead of rushing a court case for a judgment, sit with them and understand their language. Where if a child says, we ride horses, and then you show them a picture of a horse, a child will be like, oh, what's that? Then you start to understand, how do you say we were riding horses? You don't know what this is. This is a horse. And then you'll say, okay, when you guys ride horses, what do you do? Yeah, well, so I think the legal system could, and this is maybe I've had limited experience, but I think we could take way more time around the children and understanding what they understand as abuse.
Yeah. It's in the lawyer yet. Zulu, you are legal arms.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was not even sure. But I think I'm listening to what Wendy's saying, and I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm not studying law. I'm studying something completely different, but I tend to be more interested in law. I'm listening to what Wendy's saying, and when I've dealt with people who have been victims of like sexual assault and stuff like that, it's always the case of they're not being given the attention they deserve in cases like this. It tends to, you know what, you can't ask a teenager point blank, were you raped? You can't ask anyone actually point blank, were you raped? You know what I mean? Because most people don't want to accept at first that it was rape that happened, nothing else, nothing more than that. They would like to use other terms that are lighter than that. I think in our country, when it comes to pedophilia, we tend to be more silent because we already have blesser lifestyle already being so dominant and so I guess the fact that we actively see older men have relationships with younger women and we make it a slay queen sugar baby type of thing instead of the issue that it actually is. I think we've normalized it as a country, and we've done the bare minimum in tackling such issues. We want to point it out when it's our peers that are sleeping with 16-year-olds. We don't want to talk about it when it's 20-year-old, 19-year-olds being like sleeping with 40, 50-year-olds. You know what I mean? That is still, in my opinion, still pedophilia, because you know what? Eventually they come to an age where they realize that they were preyed on because they were weak, and that this was not done with pure intentions. It wasn't, this person was just really not looking for a person that could speak up to them. You know, there's so much, it's so much more than a fetish, in my opinion. It's like asserting dominance, in my opinion. It's something very problematic that as a country we've undermined, and we've like purposefully turned a blind eye to and acted like it doesn't exist. But slay queen or sugar babies only exist because this was normal at a certain point. These girls have been sleeping with older men. Now this has to become the norm. So we haven't done much as a country, because as long as it's a monetary transaction, we tend to keep quiet. And as long as the girl is being told she's benefiting, we turn a blind eye. We only want to focus when someone actually says, I was raped. We never want to focus when we see a 16-year-old dating a 24-year-old. We think that's love. That can never be love, in my opinion. And I think that's where the problem is. We know these things. There is a law. It's a brilliant law on paper. It's not being implemented at all.
100% agree with you, 100%. And I always find it so strange where you have a 15-year-old boy or girl, either way. I mean, there's no gender to this. The 15-year-old dating a 25-year-old. And you think to yourself, but man or woman, is there no one else that you could date? This person's in high school. They don't know any better. And in all honesty, what is the attraction? This is a child, you know? So I 100% agree with you on that, where we have to do better as a country, and we have to call it out when we see it. We have to call it out, irrespective of what the perceived benefits are. It needs to be called out because it's not right. Like a 15-year-old at this point, how is he or she defending themselves? How is he or she speaking up for themselves if they're uncomfortable in this relationship? How is he or she having a voice? Like come on, no, like 100% agree with you.
I agree, and I think it's like a socio-political problem as well, because abusers tend to be breadwinners. Those are like the benefits that they offer. And our systems here in the country are so broken that I don't know, grocer, 500 rands worth of grocery goes a long way in some families. And in fact, we can even get into, as a family, a transactional relationship with a blesser, to be like, we have a daughter who is 14 exclusively for you. They won't say it outright, but that's literally the communication that happens, because she's 15. Where is she getting 500 rand groceries from? You as the parents eating that food, you know that there's something here, right? Even if it's not a 15, even if it's a 19-year-old, she's in school. How is she affording this watch? How is she, how is it? We tap, and I think, and I think in a country like ours, there's a lot of people who are very vulnerable to that type of thing. Yes, I do agree that there are people who enter blessy relationships not for socioeconomic or political reasons, but I do think that has a big impact as well, because our country does not support the poor of the poor in the way that it should. And I think that's also a problem.
Oh, great.
The whole thing of grouping people who molest children and like general pedophiles, because I do feel like they need to be treated differently.
I was actually
like after what you were saying.
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually pulled up a research article that actually says you have to do exactly that. You have to be very careful to make a distinction between a child molester and someone with pedophilic tendencies. So it's actually it's like your timing is perfect, because I'm reading an article now that says you have to make a distinction.
Yeah, because I'm looking at this conversation and thinking it's the child molesters that want to be part of the LGBTQ community, because they know that their behavior is. Yeah, I think so, because from my little research as well, because they know that their behavior is outside of the norm. They know that their behavior is sodomy or disgusting. That's why I think they wanted to be pulled into the LGBTQ community, because those are some of the adjectives that they use for gay people, and it is I don't know, hey, fetish, I don't know. I think mental institution.
I think fire.
I think one's men.
Most people say that men fall for baby voice of pedophilia. For instance, you'd find that your man gives you attention when you fake a little girl's voice, or you dress up as a little girl as when you guys are maybe having sex. Do you guys agree with the statement?
I've never dated a pedophile, so I could never really say yes or no. I've never heard any man that I've ever been with say, you know what turns me on crazy is when you use that little baby voice. I would probably leave if he ever says that. But I've seen some girls use a baby voice randomly, but I've never experienced this. So
baby voice. You're not dating a whole big woman like me, and now I'm sound like a child.
Hi, baby.
But I have heard of that. I have heard of that in the BDSM community, right? But you must remember that the bondage what is it? Bondage, something sodomy, what was BDSM, right? I've heard of that because I've attended a BDSM seminar. I've attended a BDSM seminar once where the child was saying, the lady was saying that they do role play, like that whole Catholic schoolgirl thing. But I don't know if it goes as far as like sounding like a baby, but I do think if you are doing something with a consenting adult, that's fine. If you want to sound like however you sound, but you're consenting adults, showcase. But then also watch out, because now your own kids are not safe, your friends' kids are not safe also in this house.
That's a thin
So
line.
it's also about
it's
outside of you, because if you enable this behavior with you, how are you going to stop it when the person is like, you're not childlike enough for me, but hey, your sister's daughter is, let me bring her in. So it's an ethical, moral, sexual conundrum.
It's a baby, a whole entire baby voice.
I feel like it's a thin line, it could be from you acting like a child. Next thing, an actual baby.
Dude, you do so much, and the next thing he actually starts running after like 16-year-olds, or even worse, 13 and 12-year-olds. But I feel like, even for me personally, everything has a very thin line with fetishes. Yes, it's all cute and funny, and then it gets hectic when you're living the fetish. Like, it's the only thing you find like attractive or interesting. That's the only way you can have sex, is if a person acts like a Catholic schoolgirl. Then I can see the thin line. I think we've crossed it somewhere in between. But I do think, anything is better than actually sleeping with young girls.
A thin line.
Yes.
It's so tough. It's like
it's probably
so close. Guys, next thing is raping your sister's child, because when we are now you're too old.
You can't be this obsessed.
Now you want the real child.
Moving forward, a lot of platforms are trying so hard to normalize pedophilia. There's a new movie set to hit our screens. I think it was meant to air on Netflix. I'm not quite sure if it's still going to happen. But the title of the movie is Cuties. Description of the movie is 11-year-old Amy starts to rebel against her conservative family traditions when she becomes fascinated with the free-spirited dance crew. Another description goes as, Amy, 11, becomes fascinated with the twerking dance crew, hoping to join her femininity, defying her family's traditions. Ladies, how do you feel about Netflix and other big brands that condemn pedophilia? I don't know if I'm making sense, Ethan. Should I start over?
You're making sense.
No, it's fine.
Are you saying?
Sorry?
Are you saying that condone pedophilia, or condemn it?
Yeah.
So therefore, they want it. The sexual, like little girls are sexualized so early. Little girls are sexualized so early, and by 11, it's this thing of you mimicking your mother. You washing dishes, you cooking, all of these things. And we've spoken about this before, where now you're starting to act like your mom, in the house. Now your father sees your mother in you, for example, or your uncle sees, a grown woman in you. And meanwhile, you're 11, and I hate that kids can't just be kids, right? And movies like this act as if it's the kids that are forward. That's what I hate about it. It acts like it's the kids that are mature. Hey, this child is ripe, forward. Meanwhile, the person attracted to the child is the actual person that's wrong here. And men will watch this movie. Let me say pedophiles will watch this movie and feel like it's okay that they can pursue another 11-year-old, because 11-year-olds these days, it's the food they eat. They are so ripe, and it disgusts me so much. And if big corporations like Netflix are gonna put movies like this up, then we must go back to the other time we spoke about cancel culture, cancel the entire thing, because it's just condoning the sexualization of young children.
For me, I'm listening to what you're saying because I haven't heard of this. I'm listening to what you were saying, and I'm trying to understand the context. I don't know if the movie is portraying the kid in a sexual manner, or is society already attaching that to it? I don't know what context it's being delivered as. I don't know if it's just a girl. There's nothing wrong with twerking, but there's something wrong if you look at the girl and you associate it with sex. Then there's something wrong with a girl. Girls always dance like that. Like growing up, there was this thing, like girls used to dance like that all the time growing up. So I don't see anything wrong with twerking, but I find it very problematic if the viewers or the men want to associate it with sex. It's like in school, when girls, especially black girls are always being sexualized. And it used to anger me even at school when I was at the hostel and stuff like that. We'd wear shorts, and the white girls would wear shorts and stuff like that. You wearing your shorts, they say that is too short, you're revealing everything. But there's nothing wrong with the shorts. It's the people that have a tendency of sexualizing young girls. And it would frustrate me if they're using a black girl as a character and they don't portray the fact that black girls are always being sexualized. I hope at the end of the movie that they do portray that black girls are always being sexualized from a very young. There's nothing wrong with the movie, but trying to sexualize the movie, unless the movie is sexualizing the kid. But I doubt that is the case, but I'll check it out to give like a proper opinion. Sometimes it's just the viewer at us and make us sexual beings, even though we're not doing anything sexual.
What's the title of the movie? I want to see if I can quickly watch the trailer, because I also have no idea. I've never heard of this movie before. So I actually have no opinion. What is it called?
Cuties. I don't know if we can.
I don't trust them.
But a lot of people cancelled Netflix after we Kupelondo, and then they were like, we need to cancel Netflix, we need to unsubscribe, we need to cancel our stuff. So I don't know if they still planning to air the movie, or they just cancelled. And what's even worse is that they were saying that the people behind the movie directors are black women, so they don't even understand how they got to approve all of this. So people were mad.
It sometimes happens that when you know something is wrong, but you don't know which part of the value chain is wrong, right? They just know that it's wrong. And if the movie is an innocent movie, but now it's being portrayed as if it's sexualizing kids instead of the viewers, the ones using it to fuel their own sexual desires, then we must also call each other out and say, Netflix is fine because kids, other 11-year-olds would like to see that, right? But we are not calling out the people that we live with who are going to watch it and turn it into something that it isn't. Yeah. Sometimes we point the value chain is long. Now it's about black women producing things. You see, we need to be. Yeah.
Like we need to watch the movie first before we critique.
I know. I also want to watch it. I can't have an opinion on it. Yeah, I'm looking for a trailer. I'm nervous to have an opinion on something I have no knowledge about. So that's why I'm nervous to say anything.
Yeah, me too.
I can't even see a trailer.
Yeah, okay, Mbali, here's your favorite topic. High school girls dating older men. Is pedophilia only towards young children, or is it also people in their 20s sexually engaging with teenagers? Like Abano taxi driver that are sexually involved with high school girls that they're transporting. What do you guys think about it? Personally, I feel like this goes way back and we just didn't pay attention to it. And I don't have much experience to this because growing up, I was never sexualized by men, and I don't remember a time whereby my high school friends were involved with like taxi drivers. Kanye were involved with older men. So I don't have a say to this topic, to this part. Yeah.
Well,
So if you guys don't know experience.
No, guys, thing is, I thought about yonke le nto, and I think Zilu uzonqinelana because we went to the same high school. We were exposed to kids like a high school dating on a taxi. Abanye bafumana guys from Joburg or wherever that they met at some club and be with them just because of money and the car and so yeah, guys, it was something that I needed us to talk about because at some point, like thinking back, half of ababantwana, or half of them, they didn't really know, but these guys are actually taking advantage because when they were just like, oh no, yeah, and Tanda, they were very naive towards it, but we're gonna spend our lives together, get married, wara. But then Bona, they didn't know that the guy's actually taking advantage because flashy cars, money, and like Lando only goes to Tengela Ikerpek Yundundun and Tengela Imbasha and Tintin. Because in high school, brand Jonga wearing thingy from cotton because Tina grew up in a town where we didn't really have much shops. Like you needed to travel to get a more cotton on or whatever. So again, we could get now. Let's say Uzilu, I'm going to use you because we went to the same high school. Let's say now Uzilu dated low guy or dates this guy and Lumfana now Uzomtengela and those are cotton on Yonke Lando. Uzilu never knew by him, and this guy is just, just to get some sexual transaction done, and then Patela in top 50 rand got cotton on, and then when it was like, is but oh no, cotton on, So guys, good. It was actually, we were exposed, like. And Genano, you would mind your own business and ukube because so teamy. And at that time,
how old were the guys?
They were very old.
Old.
They were they were like 30, mid-30, late 20.
Yeah, they were usually 30.
Tiny, like they were old.
Yeah, it's not what you're expecting. I think you're expecting like a 22-year-old. It's not a 22-year-old. It's like a 35 who's working at like probably, has a kid on the side. It's got so much going on. He's dating a 17 or 16-year-old. It used to be the case. And personally, with how I learned to shut my mouth is, they dealt with me with my sudden wokeness or ideas of, I used to write this, and I used to have like pieces and stuff like that. And, I learned how to keep quiet eventually, because people will make you feel like you are somehow the ugliest thing for not attracting such. And it went on for such a long time in high school and stuff like that. You got it goes with so many things. Being shamed for not being sexually active, people accusing you of being sexually active when you're not. Just because you're doing it, you're expecting everyone to do it. And that's where I think later on in university, I started thinking that's where the abuse started. That's where everything was kind of normalized, because these men have convinced you that everyone is doing this, that it's very normal to be in a relationship with a 35-year-old who's settled down and he has loans. And even though you haven't even reached tertiary, you haven't even passed matric, but he's normalized it and has made it very normal to be active with. And as we grow older, even in high school was you felt pressured for such stupid things. But some of us have parents that even if you have a t-shirt that they don't recognize, it's literally game over. And that's the thing that kind of hid us from, you know, you come from a home where your parents are very aware of these things. Most people that we went to school with were not necessarily being, was the saddest part. We didn't know they were victims. We thought they were the cool, but, you know, things turn and you realize that person was a victim, and it's not a matter of them, but bring awareness to the issue. And I really hope even the ones that we know that watch this and see us engaging. This is not an attempt to kind of say you guys were like this. It's more of we're now realizing the type of things we go through as we grow up, and you know, the type of abuse that kind of shows itself but doesn't really come across as abuse when it first showed normal, very normal. Quite frankly, I thought it was normal until I realized when I got, you can't be a 30 or 20, not even a 20-year-old dating a 16-year-old. That's not normal. You can't abuse someone. You're trying to manipulate them. And yeah, that's, I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on it, but because I know so many people that experienced it, so I choose to not have an opinion. I would rather bring awareness to the issue, but it's sad, I guess.
I think it's like, it's highly problematic because as you grow older, it also keeps on replicating itself, right? Because when you were 16 dating a person that could provide things, when you are now in varsity 20s, you are always going to be, you know, following this age gap. And I don't know, maybe we can talk about when does it start being okay. I mean, for me, I always dated peers, and I feel like that's why I don't have high affinity for a lavish love relationship. Like, if we have money, we have money. If we don't, but you know, but we're here for, and we can always like relate because, you know, from internship, we're all in internship now, first salaries, and I think by the time of management, I should be dating someone. You know, I always feel like there's a compatibility in that. And in any case, when I'm 30 next month, and and I've dated a 45-year-old and felt bullied by that 45-year-old, I feel like it's exactly the same. So you think because you're older, you can handle. And all of a sudden, you know, you're like, yeah, no, it's all is fair in love and war. Meanwhile, the principles of manipulation and bullying are still there. And when you're dating, so I can just imagine, I'm like a conscious, grounded person. I can only imagine how much bullying and manipulation you'd have to endure when you are 18, dating like a 35-year-old or a 30-year-old. Like, I don't know. Maybe let's talk about like the age gap where, I don't know. It's a mess. It's a mess. I'm always like dead period. Yeah, it's like plus minus, you know, 5 years younger, your senior, whatever. But I think when you're in high school, it should be plus minus 5 months. There is a point where the gap can be bigger, and maybe you're more mature, or the person you're dating is less mature. I don't know if you understand, but definitely when you're in high school to varsity,
what do you mean plus minus 5 months?
Yeah, when you're 18, you should be dating an 18-year-old or 19. That's what I mean.
But also, it goes back to the fact, I don't know if it's, but it also goes back to Landoba. We girls, we grow up faster than guys. That's why in most cases we can't be with guys.
It's a myth. It's a myth. It's propaganda.
There's no such thing.
Propaganda.
It's a mess because Sana.
The whole concept about girls growing up faster than men has been to kind of sexualize us, in my opinion. I feel like it's something they've tried to use against us. They convince us that we're older and we're more mature, that we're ready for these stuff. And then we're not. We just want to be kids as well. You know what I mean? And you look at Tabo just enjoying life. He's doing his 3rd year. He's like chilling, steady, doing nothing. And then you're being pressured into getting married, and, you know, some old man is looking at you, trying to take you to the village and trying to marry you. And the people are asking you, when are you going to have kids? When are you going to have kids? Dude, I'm 22, just chill. Like, I don't get it. You know, it's always a thing of, from a young age, we're always being told, you guys are more mature than boys. This is why boys act like this. No, we're the same. And I feel like
Whoa.
even in high school, we should just date our peers. I mean, yeah, maybe a year or two, but a matric dating a grade 8 used to piss me off. It used to tick me off. You're a matric, you're dating a grade 8. You're literally raping the girl. And you end up making these girls do such weird things. They, I don't even want to talk about the things I've seen, but it's
Because
frustrating, and it shouldn't be a norm. And no, we're not older than them. We're quite young.
Yeah, it's a myth. It's propaganda. I agree with Zulu. It's not real. It's not factual. It's not hormonal. It's a myth.
They create these fake scenarios and try to make us go through hardships that don't exist. Like, nah, I'm young. Don't try to make me 24. I'm 22. Like, I don't get that. It really does frustrate me.
Remember, pedophilia is a real pandemic, not just the virus. Thank you guys for joining us once again. Over to you, Ms. Zulu.
Okay, ladies, old and gentlemen, welcome. And yeah, our Woman Crush Day is Vera Shaba. She's a mix of green design. She also featured on Forbes Under 30. She's killing it, I promise you. She's like she's not an economist, but yeah, she's eco-friendly and she's everything that you should guys check her out. Her videos on YouTube, her Instagram. Her name is Vera Shaba. She's really excellent. Made so many features, and I've been reading her articles and stuff like that. I'm rooting for a group. And then for the announcement, Women Champion 2020, SMS Anelile to 44344. I'll repeat it again. SMS Anelile to 44344. I think that's it from me.